All right, and we are back. And I've changed up the lighting a little bit. I have to say I've probably gotten a little carried away with my filming here and the sets, and especially with the lighting. You'd be surprised how much time I take to work on the lighting. It brings back things I learned as a photography student at Columbia Green in the late 1980s, and I've watched a couple YouTube videos about it. But it's good. It's good for an old man like me to have my mind kept elastic by trying to learn new things. And you guys too. You know, you're young. Your minds are still nice and fluid. But it's good to learn in a new way. I would much rather be with you in room 706, as I know you would rather be with each other and with me. But we're also learning to learn in a new way. And probably much more of your future, COVID or no COVID, is going to be done from a distance, mediated through the internet, better or for worse. So this is long-term a good experience. We're all learning something new. So got to make lemonade out of lemons here. But anyway, let's get back to the story and some of your comments. And this segment is brought to you by Rowenta, the King of Irons, German engineered and German made. Okay, so some of your comments talking about the two. This came in from Rita. Both Elisa and Mrs. Ames are trapped within the expectations society has for women. Yes. Being soft-spoken, feminine, not asking for too much, or being in control of too much. However, they're both grounded women and drawn towards those who are seemingly genuine and easy to understand. Both women are also literally drawn to the earth itself in these stories. Well put, Rita. And I think to bolster your point, the men in these stories are not bad people. The astronomer seems like, I don't know, a space cadet. But they're not bad guys. If they were, this would be a story about bad guys. They're normal guys doing what normal guys do, living in a world separate and apart from women, with the women in a supporting role, and that's bad. But both of these authors are bringing attention to that, and Kay Boyle's having, I think, a little more fun with it. Who knows what the future holds? If why can't I ever remember her name? That's insulting to the astronomer's wife, Mrs. Ames. Who knows if Mrs. Ames is going to run off with the plumber or not? I kind of hope she does. He's a pretty hot guy. That would be good. But anyway, you're exactly right, Rita, that both women are trapped in the expectations of society, and that we're seeing that definitely as a bad thing. And they are both literally drawn to the earth itself. You know, women connected to earth has often been a good or bad trope idea. Mother nature, that sort of thing. There are some feminist problems with that as well. There are certainly a lot worse things going on with women. Chris checking in. The women are the same because they both do not feel like they have freedom, and they are both not understood by their husbands at all. At least the farmer, the rancher, tries. They feel no love from their marriage. Both Elise and Mrs. Ames want to be respected, appreciated, and able to have a drastic change in their life. They do. I think they realize that. And I think Mrs. Ames might go for it. Hey, why not? So we've talked about the husbands a little bit, but we haven't talked a whole lot about, I guess, what we'll call the other man. I think the other man in Chrysanthemums, the tinker, is an interesting guy. He's portrayed very sympathetically. He's a guy trying to get by. I don't think he's a bad guy at all. He does the work for her. I'm sure he does good work. But the plumber in this story is much more interesting. Not more interesting, but much more appealing. And he has no flaws whatsoever. He is almost like some sort of god of pipes or something. Who knows? But he is painted as almost an ideal man, polite and strong and smart and capable. And I still think someday I'm going to find an even deeper meaning to this. But I love the end of the story here, when he says, I once had a cow that lost her cud. That's some like food a cow keeps in its mouth. The plumber was saying. The girl came out on the kitchen step and Mrs. Ames stood smiling at her in the sun. The trouble is very serious, she said across the garden. When Mr. Ames gets up, please tell him I've gone down. So the idea that he even helped the cow get its cud back. She pointed briefly to the open door in the pathway, and the plumber hoisted his kit on his arm and put out his hand to help her down. But I made another in no time, he was saying, out of flowers and things and whatnot. He made flowers for the cow, and out of things and whatnot. He's a capable guy. Oh, said the astronomer's wife in wonder as she stepped into the heart of the earth. She took his arm, knowing that what he said was true. Has she lost her cud? And he's bringing it back to her? Maybe that's what it is. So a very positive, very nice ending here of the story. And so he's a very different character, I think, than the Tinker. The Tinker is kind of a sad character, but the Tinker is sort of romanticized by Elisa. I don't think his life is that great, but in here the plumber he's not romanticized at all. I don't think he's as good as she thinks he is. Okay, a couple more comments. Nicole Kernan checking in here. I feel like both women have issues with their husbands, yep, and both deal with it differently because Mrs. Ames can socialize with other people, as in the plumber, and goes on with life. But it seems Eliza was just getting upset and just going to deal with it forever. They both do a lot for their husbands, and I don't think they like doing it at all. Well, bazinga, good job on that one, Nicole. And to all the women in the class, and the men, of course, Emma, Summer, Rita Alley, Nicole Kernan, Nicole Van Voorhees, Caitlin, not going to forget about you, I never forget about you, and Kat, how are you today, Kat? Checking in with all of you. These are good things to remember. Neither of these stories are horrific. They're both ripped right out of everyday life. But it's important to remember, those of you, when you interact with members of the opposite sex, think of these interactions here. And value women as much as you value men. If you have a heterosexual romantic relationship, think of these couples, and don't slip down the path that they've slipped down. It's not a good path, but it's an easy, very easy one to just sort of slip down. Again, everyday life. I'm sure on their wedding days, all it was candies and unicorns. But they've kind of both moved into a dull, unfulfilling existence, at least for the two women. So don't let this happen to you. I hope you enjoyed these stories as much as I enjoy them. And expect an essay exam question comparing and contrasting these two stories, since they do go naturally together. A couple more minutes left here, so let's talk a little bit about the rest of the semester. Off the top of my head, I think you have one 3-page paper left, and that's about what you learned in the class, and you have lots of stuff to write about. Of course, there's all the literature, and maybe you learned to be a better reader, a better writer, a better student, and then of course you could all write about this massive head-snapping, abrupt shift from face-to-face learning to distance learning, and what have you learned about that. So you should have no problem writing your last 3-page paper about what you learned in short stories. There's no right answer, there's nothing specific I'm looking for. Just think. I want you to reflect on what you learned. Also, I'm going to try to do it this afternoon. I'm going to scan a short story that I want to cover. It's my favorite story. It really is my favorite. I don't know if it's the greatest piece of literature, but I love this story. And I'm going to scan it out of my old book here and try to get it to you guys all electronically. It's called Goodfellows, and we'll work that into the schedule. I'll let you know about that. So anyway, short stories, students, keep up the good work. And maybe we'll try another Zoom. Maybe we'll try a Zoom at the end in a week or so, maybe 2 weeks. So look into that. See if you can download the Zoom app. It's really easy. And maybe I'll do a trial run with each of you, or maybe we'll do a group trial run before we try to all show up. So keep in touch, keep up the good work, and stay safe.